Let's talk about Tesla Robotaxi competition. In my recent video on the Finxter YouTube channel, subscribe if you like these kind of videos. I got the following comment by Tom Jones, which I found is kind of valid. I thought, okay, it would be worth to make a video on it and to research it myself. And because this channel serves more as an extension of my own investment journey. And yeah, he asked, I don't understand how you say Tesla clearly has the lead. If they did have the lead, why have they already deployed robotaxis in San Francisco like Waymo? So if you look at some competitors in the robotaxi space, here Waymo has already deployed robotaxis. You can see it here. You have the LiDAR sensors or radar sensors on top, also enriched with camera sensors, and you can just go in there. It drives you around. Already operational. I already know people who are using it, so this is happening. Our robotaxi network is already deployed. Same for Baidu Apollo. They have already deployed robotaxis in many cities in China. Among the cities, I think, is Shanghai. And yeah, you can just go there, open the car with your app, and it drives you to your destination. It is already happening. Didi, which is kind of also Chinese-based transportation platform. I'm not sure. I don't think they are a huge robotaxi competition in terms of providing the robotaxi software. They are more a general platform for driving. Then you have Cruise, which has had some troubles lately, but still they have their robotaxis. Looks similar to Waymo, right? It's already deployed, and robotaxi is more in quotation mark because like Waymo, Cruise also uses remote drivers from time to time that just drive the car remotely. So we don't really know if it is driving completely autonomously or whether a remote driver drives it, and the percentage of both, right? We know remote drivers drive them, but we don't know the percentage of self-driving and the percentage of remote driving. Many people don't know this. And then we have EasyMile. They focus more on buses and larger autonomous vehicles, but they are based in French, and but they are not really significant competitors. Okay, so these are some competitors. We have more competitors in China coming up, because now the competition is really coming in the autonomous vehicle space. Why is this? That basically this is a bullish signal, right? It means that the market is ripe. There's something happening. We will see robotaxis everywhere in the future. Robotaxis are coming, which means, and if they are coming, if we have self-driving vehicles and we don't need to pay drivers anymore for those vehicles, we can use them to replace professional drivers, which are the most expensive item in the logistics sector and also in the transportation sector, which are two of the biggest sectors in the world. And this will drive down costs, literally, costs in every product imaginable, because every product needs to be shipped, and every product has some portion of driving costs, inherent driving costs. So bringing down this costs of driving brings down cost of all products. This has a deflationary effect on the economy, which is great. And yeah, so let's have a look at the driving experience. I researched this. How many miles have the different companies we discussed here, or we showed here? How many miles have they already driven on real roads? And here on Waymo, I found they have driven 20 to 40 million miles on public roads. Cruise has driven only 1 to 2 million miles on public roads. So Waymo is an order of magnitude times 2 larger in terms of their experience base than Cruise. Then Didi and Baidu, I just batched them together. They have driven roughly 6 million miles on public roads and maybe 100 million on test roads. So they did a lot of testing. You can find these two numbers. You can find these 100 million numbers on their website. But they say that 100 million miles is combining the public roads, the real mileage driven on public roads, and the mileage driven on test roads. And if you look at the mileage driven only on real roads, you can find this figure, 6 million miles, in their quarterly shareholder report, where they give kind of this statistic. So the truth will be more like 6 million miles on public roads. EasyMile has driven, this is a small company, only 0.5 to 0.8 million miles on public roads. Compare this to Tesla, full self-driving software, which has driven 1.3 to 2.5 billion miles on public roads. So the difference in experience in data is enormous. If you would visually compare this, you see this yellow-orange bar here is Tesla. They smoke all competitors in terms of their data. And as we know from the AI scaling laws, the more data we have, the better the performance. Now, this is not from AI scaling laws, but just economics. The better the performance, the more usage you get, the more data you have, the more you can improve your performance, right? And the more data you get, and the better your models get. So it's like this virtuous cycle of improving your software by means of being the number one, having the leading position in the self-driving space. And we've seen like Google maintaining their lead, for instance, for decades, and other companies similarly, if they have a data lead and they can use the data to improve their products or enrich their products, for instance, Amazon recommendation systems and so on. If you have the lead, if you have the data, you can often maintain the lead. And this is one of the main reasons why I say Tesla is the leading company. I don't even make the assumption that Tesla will remain the leader, but I'm just like, it was in this comment, it was only attacked why I say they have the lead if Tesla has not deployed a Robotaxi network yet. What they have deployed is the FSD system. And now you could argue, FSD is not the same as a Robotaxi, but now let's have a look at this video because people don't believe me. So this one is now the
Tesla sign and went left, even though the navigation was going straight.
This is the Tesla full self-driving system. You can see it here. I use it myself. I also have Tesla FSD, and it works great, but it works even better in the US. It can autonomously drive roads like this, right? Very complicated, curvy roads with traffic in cities and stuff, and also like overland. Of course, on highways, it works much better. So this software system already does everything Robotaxis do, right? It drives people autonomously to the destination. So it is the same. Even if it is not called a Robotaxi yet, it already is a Robotaxi. Now, if you compare this to Waymo Drive, Waymo already has a deployed Robotaxi network. It's just the same, right? It's the same car, it's the same everything. So going from this one to this one, it's just a decision and maybe pushing out a software update. It is nothing very fancy. It is nothing impossible. Okay, so now we have addressed this issue as well. So that's why we can compare FSD with, say, Waymo or Cruise or EasyMile or Baidu. And let's have a look at the growth rate. So we are already in the leading position, and we have the fastest growth rate with Tesla. Tesla FSD miles driven growth rate grows rapidly. You see this vertical bar here at the top. The growth basically accelerates, right? So this is kind of an insane acceleration. This one was shared by Tesla AI Twitter account when they reached the 1 billion FSD miles driven. But as I pointed out here, they at the point of writing, they have already crossed the 2 billion miles driven threshold. So it's not even one, but maybe 2 orders of magnitude bigger already than most competitors in terms of miles driven and the data lead they have. Now let's not look at data, because you could argue, okay, just because you have the biggest data set, doesn't mean you have the most successful product on the market. Now, what revenue does Waymo make? The problem with Waymo is it's a Google subsidiary, and they don't disclose the revenue they make on their statements. So we need to look at some sources. We need to deep dive. And Bank of America has done a study on this. They say that Waymo revenue could reach $50 to 75 million in revenue in 2024. And this is just a stretch goal, right? It's not even, didn't even reach this kind of revenue. And this is just a stretch goal. They could reach this revenue if they would execute sufficiently. And this is done with a $1.5 billion loss, right? So this is not even profitably, it's just a revenue with a huge loss. So this is way more, right, than maybe the one of the leading competitors. Now look at Baidu revenue. Baidu also doesn't disclose the revenue they make on an annual basis, because Baidu, like the search giant, they still make a lot of more revenue with search than they do with self-driving, so they don't disclose the revenue they make with this like other bets category. Similar as Google, and Google for Waymo, and Baidu has Apollo, and but Baidu basically discloses how many rides they did in the first quarter of 2024, and they made like 800k rides. So if you annualize this during the last 12 months, they would have made something like 3.2 million rides, probably less if you look back. But okay, let's be optimistic. So they made 3.2 million rides. I searched how much a ride cost. I researched how much does a ride cost. It costs 2.8 renminbi, or sorry about that, or 0.39 bucks per mile. And even if you would be very optimistic and the average mileage was 10, so 10 miles driven per trip, I think it would be much smaller, right? Probably they would drive maybe 2 miles, and many of the Robotaxi ride hails would be very short trips. But even if it was 10 miles, the total revenue would be like less than 10 million, right? Why 10 times 39 cents is like $4 or so, if 3.9 bucks. And if you multiply 3.9 bucks with 3.2 million rides, you get roughly 10 million, and these were optimistic numbers. That's why I say smaller than. So we have like $10 million in revenue or so. Now let's look at Cruise. Cruise reports to have 30 million revenue, but most of the revenue basically doesn't come from self-driving, but from other sources. But okay, let's go with the 30 million revenue number. I would say like Baidu probably has more revenue than Cruise, but okay. If we compare this visually with Tesla revenue, Tesla makes $1 billion a year from full self-driving. You see Tesla already ships a profitable product in the marketplace with more than 10 times the revenue as the second place, Waymo. More than 10 times. And they are growing faster, and they have more mileage, and they make more money. So they can spend more on research and development, more on compute training hardware. They have more experience. They dominate in every single metric you could think of. Now, there are also some quantitative advantages Tesla have. Let's go over them. They are the only solution that has an end-to-end neural network based approach. They did this a couple of months ago. I also reported on this in a video and on a blog post and in the Finxter email newsletter, so check it out. You can also join my Finxter email newsletter for free. We have 140,000 tech enthusiasts there. Just go to finxter.com, finxter.com, and subscribe with your email address. My main purpose with Finxter and the newsletter is to keep you on the right side of change, which is important in these times of rapid change. So check it out. Okay, I report on this end-to-end neural network approach. So we basically have photons in and driving commands out, and we minimize the error. And the error would be an intervention or so. So a driver decides to take over and control the car. And if we have an end-to-end neural network-based approach, and we just need to throw more data at the problem to improve the solution, right? It would be it's much better than, say, a heuristic-based approach where we have multiple heuristics working together, because you cannot really fine-tune the different heuristics, and it's very complicated because sometimes heuristics don't apply. This is like why they are called heuristics and not optimal algorithms. And an end-to-end neural network approach, it would be similar in our brains, for instance, where we also photons come into our eyes. we have the brain, and then we have driving commands coming out, right? So it's like it is basically the approach we humans use, and it's also the approach where AI scaling laws apply best. If you have a combination of heuristics, we cannot like guarantee or even estimate an improvement rate or so over time, because heuristics are error prone, and we often have a multiplicative effect of error. So if you have multiple heuristics, for instance, one heuristic to detect street signs and one heuristics to detect people, human beings, one heuristic to detect motorcycles and so on. So if we have different heuristics and we stack them on top of each other, if one heuristic is erroneous or has an error, then the input into the next heuristic could be an error as well, and the error would propagate, and it could be much more fatal, right? And if you have an end-to-end neural network-based approach, like everything is, we can have much more fine-grained algorithms deciding on specific circumstances. We have a much more powerful knowledge representation. This is what we would say in AI. And so Tesla is the only one that uses this end-to-end neural network-based approach. Tesla is also the only one using a vision-only based approach, which is cheaper. So they don't use radar or LiDAR currently. They used to use it, but then they decided that the performance is actually better if they removed complexity and removed this sensor, and just replace it with more cameras. Right? So now we have 8 cameras or even more on Tesla cars, and they replace basically 2 human eyes, right? And if a human can drive with eyes, a car must be able to drive with cameras as well, or at least at superhuman performance. And often if you have 2 sensors, then you need to decide which sensor to choose in a given scenario. And this can be very complex, it can be noisy, because one sensor might say there is a car or an obstacle in front of you, the other sensor might say the opposite. Now you need to decide which one to trust. And Tesla found out that often you need to trust the visual sensor, because the radar-based sensor can be noisy and is basically not very reliable. And not being reliable can be deadly in a street situation. And then on top of this, we also have, it is also expensive, and the economics are not as good as simply getting rid of the sensor. And we still have redundancy with the cameras, right? We have more cameras, so we have more redundancy. So Tesla currently is the only vision-based approach, and more startups basically are coming to the conclusion that vision is the way to solve full self-driving or robotaxi, because the roads are just designed for vision, for human eyes. And if you have cameras, you have all the information you need to find the best driving commands in a certain situation. And then the third point is synergy. So the argument here is that most other startups, most other companies currently are on the wrong path of still including sensors that will get removed eventually, in all likelihood. I mean, this would be maybe the weakest point in the argument, in the thesis, because you could argue it's still better to have more redundancies or more sensors, and in most situations I would agree. And I think eventually they might decide to even add the sensor with a low confidence or so, because even if it gives only a small advantage in a tiny percentage of situations, then it might be a good idea to include it, right? To just increase the performance ever so slightly. But currently it does more harm than good. So the experts in the field basically agree that vision-only systems are the way to go in self-driving. Synergy, we have 2 million Teslas already deployed on the road. And this is like the major advantage. So if I could take only one advantage, I would basically take this advantage here from this slide. This is like orders of magnitude more units than all the other companies have even combined, right? We have an instant robotaxi fleet on the road, so we have network effects, and we have more data. We have more data. We have more data, and we have more revenue, and both will be an advantage to train better and better models. And we have orders of magnitude more roads on more Teslas on the road, more cars on the road that can be integrated into our robotaxi fleet, which improves the customer satisfaction in the end. Because if you hire, or if you call a robotaxi, you want the robotaxi basically to arrive in time, right? You don't want to wait for the only robotaxi in your city until it arrives. So the other way, like that's why Waymo, for instance, provides own robotaxis only in San Francisco, so they can create the critical mass of robotaxi units there before moving on to the next city. So they go city by city, whereas Tesla can instantly launch their product nationwide or even internationally with a software update. This is like the biggest advantage, right? It is a scale advantage impossible to replicate for any competitor. And then also you have like these soft advantages, but as I argued in my last video, these may be the most important advantages for Tesla to remain the profit leader. Not only the leader in kind of deployment and miles driven and revenue, but also in profits. And these are like having the highest comfort, because Teslas are very comfortable. They have comfortable seats and everything. They have the screen. You can use them for entertainment and games. Already I play with my kids a lot of games in the Tesla on the beautiful screen. They have a good air quality systems. They have great production efficiency. I think they are the most efficient electric vehicle production companies out there, at least like in the Western hemisphere. There are some like BYD that already produce more electric vehicles in China, based on China. So China will be a competitor. I think this is definitely true. But Tesla is still the revenue leader in the electric vehicle market. They have the strongest brand. They have the patents. For instance, I checked out the patent recently about self-cleaning robotaxi, which is great. I mean, they provide, they patented some ways for the robotaxi to already use the existing things like their airflow control system to sanitize the robotaxi after a certain person has been driven from location A to location B. Now, before it collects the next customer, it would self-clean itself using different kind of sensors and actuators combination. Some of them are already deployed in the cars, which is really interesting. So they have been optimizing for this robotaxi future for a long time. Tesla is definitely the leader in robotaxi, and I hope I could show in this presentation why. I appreciate having you here. I also appreciate the question and the comment in the comment section below. Thanks Tom Jones for providing the comment. If you want to check out the free email newsletter, then go ahead, go to finxter.com, subscribe with your email address. I will keep you posted about the trends and the future developments and give you my perspective on how you can be on the right side of change. Of course, it's never financial advice. I just do my best to be on the right side of change myself. And we already have 140,000 tech enthusiasts on the list, and it's growing by the day. I have also beginner-friendly AI practitioner courses on the academy.finxter.com, so the Finxter Academy. You can also search it on Google. Maybe first do some research, check out what other people are saying about the Finxter Academy, and then you could decide to join if you really want to put your career on another path, a path that might be more successful in the future, where AI is disrupting all of our labor. And thanks again for giving me your time and attention, your most precious resource. I appreciate having you here, and see you in the next video. Bye.